What's up, my witches and warlocks, ghouls and goblins, seekers of the strange and everyone in between? My name is Scott, and this is the Paranormal Pagan, and I'm here to walk you through this strange and unusual journey. So, on this episode, I'm going to be answering more questions I've heard people ask regarding the pagan beliefs. And so, let's go ahead and jump right on into it. So this is a pretty interesting question. There's actually a really easy step process that you can go through and create really good spells, and they don't have to be really elaborate as a lot of the movies or some people tend to make them out to be. So here's the step processes that I use in order to create my own spells. So first, you're going to have an intention. By that I mean you have to have a reason to be doing the spell. What is the reason? Is it for luck? Is it for some sort of financial distress? Is it for some sort of healing purposes? Is it for some sort of protection? Is it for a legal matter? There's so many different reasons that you would be creating the spell, but first you have to have that intention. So you have to figure out what the intention is for why you're creating the spell. The second thing that you'll need to do is do a little bit of research. You'll need to know what types of spells, what ingredients are needed, why are those ingredients needed, those kind of things. You'll want to do some research in order to kind of get your mind going a little bit. Some of the spells that you can use, there's like something like this would be a jar spell. They can be different sizes, and it all just depends on what your intention is. But you can do a jar spell. You could do a tincture spell. There's oil spells, powder spells, sachet spells, poppet spells, candle and incense spells, and sigil spells. That's just to name a few. So that kind of what can get your mind going about the different types of spells that you could even possibly think to do. As far as what your intention is, you would need to do the research on what would need to also be included. What would you need to be doing in order to perform this spell? If you're going to be using herbs or anything like that, I highly would recommend Scott Cunningham's book, Encyclopedia of Magical Herbs. It's a really good book, and it's very informative, and it gives you detailed information about each of the plants and herbs that you can be working with, as well as the magical uses of the herbs. So I find this book very useful and very helpful whenever I'm trying to create spells, especially if I'm using herbs. Then once you've done the research, your next step is going to be to create whatever your spell working is. By that I mean, if you're doing a candle magic spell, this is when you would want to carve on the candle and then rolling it in oil and herbs or however you're going to be working with the candle. This would be the process where you would do that. Or if you're doing a sigil spell, this is when you would draw out the sigil and figure out what the sigil is that you're going to be working with. If you're making a poppet, this is when you would sew the poppet together and get it prepared to add herbs and stuff. So this is where you would do the creation process on anything that would need to be created. The next step is where you're going to perform or charge the spell. This is basically where you're going to cast the spell. This is where you're going to perform the ritual, or you're going to speak the chant that you created, or you're going to bury the item that you made, or burn the sigil, or consecrate an incense. Or my way that I like to charge things with energy, this is part of my process. I charge it with energy by, I'll rub my hands together and I'll create fiction, which is creating energy. And then I'll hold the item in my hand. And while I'm holding it in my hand, I just kind of do regular steady breathing. And I have my eyes closed and I visualize exactly what I intend this spell to do. And I keep visualizing that until I have a very good picture of it. And then once I have a very good picture of it, I release it and put it in the universe's hands. The next step, and this is, I think, to me, is a very important step. It's where you're going to remain silent. By that, I mean you're not going to brag, and you're not going to tell everybody, hey, guess what I did, or you're going to see what I've done, or you don't want to do anything like that. You want to keep it silent. And the reason why you want to do that is because people that have doubts are going to put negative energy into your spell. Even the smallest of doubt. Even if they say, well, if you think it'll work, then best of luck to you, that's still putting negative energy into your spell. And you don't want that. So you want to remain silent. You don't want anybody having an opportunity to put any kind of negative energy into your spell. And the best way to control that is by not telling anybody what your spell is until after it has manifested. Then you can say, hey, I did a spell to do this, and this is the manifestation of the spell that I did. The last part of the equation as far as creating a spell, to me, in my opinion, is to wait, to be patient. Sometimes spells don't manifest right away. Sometimes they take a little more time. In my opinion, I give it one lunar cycle. If I don't see some sort of a result by then, I will either redo the spell, the exact same spell, just to kind of recharge and strengthen the spell. Sometimes I may even just decide, you know what, I did a candle spell last time. I think I would feel a little more confident if I did a jar spell this time. And so I'll change it up altogether and just do a completely different spell. So, I mean, but you want to make sure that you're being patient. And if you don't get results within 2 days, be like, well, this didn't work and it sucks. Be patient. With this one, I can't say that there's any one specific right way in order to get into a trance for ritual or spell work. There's a lot of different ways, and everybody has a different way of doing it. As far as what does it mean, it mainly just means you're wanting to get into a headspace where you're quieting your mind to where all the mundane things that you normally worry about and think about in your everyday life, you shut all that down and you just get into a quiet headspace. That being said, the best way that I can answer this question is the way that I do it. And the way that I do it is I'll take 9 deep breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth, and I do it real calm and slow like this. I'll do that 9 times, and then on the 9th breath, when I take the 9th breath in, I hold it, and I hold it for 30 seconds, and I do it, or just a 30 count in your head. I personally do 1001, 1002 in my mind while I'm holding the breath, and then when I get to 30, I release, I swallow, and then I start over and do another 9 count. I do that 3 times. After the 3rd time and I breathe out, that's usually when I'm in a pretty good trance headspace, and so that's what I use. In my opinion, I don't think so. I don't think that you have to do a full protection circle. If you're doing a ritual, I do think that it is very important to do a protection circle for ritual. If for a simple spell, I kind of believe that it's up to the individual. If they want to do the full circle and make a full deal out of it, then so be it. I think that it also is just as effective. If, for example, if you're doing cooking magic, you wouldn't create a circle, to do some sort of cooking magic. You would be doing it all on the spot at the stove. Maybe some people do create a circle when they're doing cooking magic. I don't know. I don't. There are some spells that if I'm doing it on the spot, especially if it's something like sigil work or something like that, I'm not going to do a full protection circle or anything like that. I'm just going to create and cast. If the individual feels more comfortable having that protection, then so be it. If you feel that that protection isn't necessary, then so be it as well. In fact, I do have a house fairy. A house fairy, basically, our house fairy is a fairy that sits somewhere at the front of the house, and we have a little bowl that sits in front of the house fairy, and whenever we have missing items that we can't find, we go to the house fairy and we ask if she can help find the missing item, and then if we find the missing item, then we put a coin in her bowl as a thank you offering for helping find the item. Sometimes we also will add an offering if leaving the house. We'll ask the house fairy to watch over the house and make sure it stays protected, and then when we come home we throw a coin in the bowl as an offering as well. When the bowl gets full, we take the change and we see how much is inside the bowl, and then we go and get a special item. Usually it's some sort of figurine or something that goes along with the theme of the house fairy, like an animal or a table or a chair or some sort of item that goes along with the theme. And then we start over. We reuse the change that we used before and start over the process. So that's kind of how we use the house fairy. I'm not sure if that's how everybody views the house fairy, but that is our view of the house fairy. Alright, well, once again, I just had a few questions that I thought that I would try and answer, and hopefully it made a difference in some way. Maybe if you didn't know these things, it kind of opened your eyes to them. If you already knew it, but it's a different twist to it, maybe it's helpful in that way. I just hope that in some way it was helpful. If you like this video and you have watched some of my other content and you like it as well, maybe you could subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell so that you know when I upload a new video. Also, if you could give the thumbs up on this video if you liked it, I'd appreciate that as well. If you have any questions or anything that you would like for me to explore more on this channel, please put it in the comments and I'll definitely look into doing more videos like that. We'll see you next time. Thank you.